Welcome to this video on how Solution Manager integrates with Tricentis, the #1 continuous testing platform. Today we are going to use Tosca automated test cases to record dynamic T-bombs in Solution Manager. The result is that we can see the exact tests we need to run that are impacted by each release. So let's look at an overview of what we're going to cover today. Solution documentation is automatically synchronized into Tosca's requirements section with risk weights. This helps you prioritize your testing according to the risk and understand the business impact of test failures. We create test configurations in Solution Manager and link this to test data. In Tosca, we record and automate the test case. Then we select the test data which should be replaced based on the data from Solution Manager. Tosca test cases can be executed from within Solution Manager, and their results can be viewed in both Solution Manager or Tosca. Dynamic T-bombs are recorded via the test configuration by automated Tosca tests at runtime. The Business Process Change Analyzer identifies which automated tests cover the functionality affected by any set of SAP changes. You can then schedule those tests to be executed in Tosca. So now let's see how that works. Okay, so now I have my desktop opened and you can see I have Tricentis Tosca installed and SAP. And what we're going to do is go through an overview of the integration with Solution Manager and Tosca. And here's the overview from earlier that we saw in the slides. And what I'm going to do is go through each section one at a time so you can see how the integration works and the value we add. So the first one is solution documentation into Tricentis Tosca's requirements section. And we can see the business processes be synchronized as requirements into Tosca. So we're going to open up SAP Solution Manager, and I'm going to go to the solution documentation section over here. And the first thing we're going to look at is the environment. So I've got this is my particular branch that I'm using, this PRBO testing. And I've got some processes that I created just so I can show you the synchronization and I don't interfere with the other environments. And this is going to map directly to Tosca as well. And over here we have what we call project folders, and here's my solution documentation folder I created for this project. And if I open up the properties, you can see how I'm actually connecting to that instance. So that's what Tosca needs from a setting up point of view that lets it talk to that particular environment. And you can set up as many different projects as you want. You can see later I'm going to use our BPCA folder here, and that'll point to a slightly different one. Here we got the maintenance one. But that's a one-time setup. Once we've done with that, we don't need it anymore, so I can collapse that and we can focus just on the integration piece. So I'll go back to my solution documentation over here, and what I'm going to do as a starting point is navigate over here, and I'm going to create a new process. So I'm going to call this order to cash, and I'll give it today's date, which is 2019-01-29. Okay, and then I'll hit the save button there. Now, SAP solution documentation in this case is my source of truth. I just need to hit a save over there. And from Tosca side, what we have, if I open this up, we have the requirement section, and I've got a requirement structure that represents that project or release or sprint, depending on how you're working. In this case, it's representing my project that I created for this, and my integration works like this. I simply do a right click. You can see SAP Solution Manager is integrated already into Tosca, and I choose the Synchronize Solution Documentation option from the menu, and that'll go and pull everything across for me. Okay, so now that's done. We can see their synchronizer is finished, and now it's ready. We can see my new process that's been pulled across. And this is where we use Tosca's risk-based section and functionality to prioritize your different processes. So I'm going to make up some numbers here and say that this is a frequency of 3. It's a scale of 1 to 5. And let's say the potential damage if something goes wrong is a 5. What happens here is Tosca comes up with the weight 256, and it tells me that this particular process contributes 1.23 to the overall project or release. And then what we get to do later is we can create test cases using Tosca's test case design section and our model-based automation using our recorder. And then we can link it all up, and it really reports on our business risk being covered by these processes after each execution that runs. For now, I'm going to make up some required tests, and this can just be a placeholder for tests that you'll create later. And I'm going to use a 3, and you can see I've got 3, and it just gives me a placeholder for some tests. We can design them in Tosca. If you have some historical data and you know what the tests should be based on other releases, you can obviously create them on that, but that's just more to show you the synchronization now, going back to solution documentation. So again, I'm going to come back here and push back all my updates from Tosca now back into solution documentation. And what I'll do is I'll wait again for the synchronization to finish. This will give me an idea of when it's done, and then I can go back and do a refresh in the browser, and I'll see all the changes be pulled across. Okay, so now that's done again. It says finished, so you can see it's updated in this side, but we want to check solution documentation, and what I'll do is just click over here, click back into here, and what we should see now, there we go. Everything I entered now in Tosca has been pulled across, so we can actually see from solution documentation what's been updated and what's prioritized from that side, and even the number of tests that will be linked to it later once we automate them. Okay, and that's it for the first piece. What we've done now, if I collapse all that and collapse that, we've done the first integration point with Tosca. So the next step in our integration is looking at our test cases. So in Solution Documentation, Solution Manager, we have our test configurations that we create with different test data and executables. And this is what's mapped to our Tricentis Tosca automated test cases. So let's open up Solution Manager again, and we can have a look over here and see I've changed my branch to the maintenance. So there's a lot more processes now. And what we're going to do is look at test configuration 40, which I've already created. Normally you would need to come over here, create a new configuration and do all the setup, but let's just focus on the integration itself and the value from that. So I've already got mine set up. I'm opening my test configuration 40, and what we'll see is we have my executable and everything's ready to go. And what we can see here is there's a Launch Tricentis Tosca button. So if I click that, what you'll see is it'll jump to Solution Manager. And what we should also see now is Tricentis Tosca launch. And there you can see with my Tricentis Tosca installation. So it's already set up ahead of time, and we can jump back and forth between two different systems. And the first thing we're going to look at is the test cases and the data, how we can share that between the two systems. So you can see here, it's already said Tosca remote control, and this is basically just telling me I'm controlling it from Solution Manager in this point. I can hit OK. And this is my test configuration 40, which I set up within Solution Manager. So if I expand all these columns, so we can see, and do a right click, what I did was the first time I set this up, I came into Tosca, it created this folder for me, and all I did was I came over here, I hit the record button, and I went through VA01 manually, entering data, and Tosca recorded that using our model-based approach, which has low maintenance, and any business user can do this from that point. The next thing I did over there is I'll need to do a checkout here just so I can show you that, is set up the parameters. So instead of driving the actual data from within here, I can pull out certain parameters and drive that from Solution Manager. And by doing that, you just do a right click and you can see there's a new option there that says Edit Test Parameters. We need to put in our password for Solution Manager, enter that. And what that does now, it gives me a pop-up, and you can see what I've done is I was happy to leave the rest in Tosca, but I decided I want to control the material type itself, or the value, and the quantity from within Solution Manager. So I can run the same test multiple times with different values to cover different data combinations from that side. Okay, that's an import that I'm importing from Solution Manager into Tosca, and I'm exporting the actual order number that's created by SAP back into Tosca from that side when it's complete. So that's all set up just so you can see that's what we're doing there. I'm going to do a check in all from that side. Didn't make any changes from there. And what you'll also see is we have an execution list here, which also has test configuration 40. I'll just double click on that so you can have a look, and you can see it's all ready to go. There's my recorded test, which just links to my test over here. It's just an execution list that has full logging. We'll have a look at that once we see some execution runs. And now I can actually select my project root, and I can jump back to Solution Manager. So I can say resume remote control. So going back to Solution Manager. So it's happy it's sending us back. And now I can come back over here. Let's close that window down. And I can actually work back in here again. So if you want to actually execute this test from within here, I can click the execute button. And it's going to again take me to the SAP transaction. It's going to go to VA01, and we can have a look at a few things here. So before I run this, what I'm going to tell Tosca is I've already set up my different data variants. So if I click over here, you can see I did this ahead of time, and you can see there's the default, which is the first value that was pulled across, but I actually added a second one as well. So I'm going to say run this test twice using, again, the same material number. Let's keep it simple, but we'll just increase the quantity by 1. So all we need to do now from the SAP user's point of view is come over here. They can obviously change the variants, but in this case, they can just hit execute. They don't need to go into Tosca for this. It's all automatic. Now what you're seeing on your screen now is the integration piece taking over. You'll see a few windows popping up back and forth, but I'm hands off now, and Tosca's taking over. It's driving the automation for me, and it's going to go through VA01 twice using the variants from within Solution Manager that I entered from there. So the first one is quantity 1. Should save that. That test is done. You can see all the green at the bottom. Still running though. It should go through now a second one. You can see there's an execution log that's created, and now it's going to basically run the exact same test again with the second data variant. So going through it all again. Same material. Now there's a 2 over there, which we can see as well. So that's all done. Now it's saved back into Tosca, and that's going to exit over there. So we're finished with Solution SAP. We don't need that. We're back in Solution Documentation. Automatically came over here. You can see activity complete, and there's our logs. If you want to, you can now, this is the great thing, you can view the logs from within Solution Documentation. And let me just, I think there's an expand button there. And you can see there M-09, and the quantity was 1. If I click on this one and expand, let's grab that. Give it a sec to come back. One too many clicks. Let's do that again, just expand, and you can see the second time it ran was a 2. So you can see exactly what happened there in this case. But now the great thing is if you go into Tosca, you can see again here, there's 2 execution logs over here from the side. So if you want to deep dive into that, we would just need to go back to here, say, let's go back to Tricentis Tosca, and it's going to take me back. You can see the Tosca window flashing, same message as before, but this time I can actually come back into my execution list. They both ran, just like in Solution Manager. We have 2 sets of values. What I'm going to do is bring in a new column. Because we parameterized it, we want to see the value in the test case, but we also want to see the used value, which it's pulled across from SAP. So there's the parameter that we set up in the 2. That was the second one that ran. And there's my log file from the first one that ran. If I expand that again, we'll again see the same thing again, but this time it's a 1 in this case. And of course, Tosca will save the actual order number to our variable name, which can then be reused again over, and that'll change every time it runs. So that's basically how we integrate on a test case level. The automation is model based across all technologies. You can see how easily we can create automation within Tosca. And the great thing about the integration with Solution Manager is we can drive the actual data from Solution Manager itself. And the last piece would be automating the tests in Tosca and recording the dynamic T-bombs in Solution Manager. And for that, I'll open up Solution Manager again, and I'm going to use the test plan in the My Tasks section for that. So if I click on Test Plan, I've already created my test plan that I'm going to use today, but we'll have a quick look and see what I've done. Okay, so that's loaded, and I'm going to display my existing one that I've already created. And what we'll see here is I've got the 2019 release, week 5, And if you go through these very quick, you'll see the actual test case selection that I've made, and these relate back to my actual test configurations, and 40 being the key one that I'm using today. If I jump to the other ones, just so you can have a quick look, I've also created a test package over here and assigned it to my own user in this particular case here. So there's my test package assigned to myself, and this is something the manager would do: create the different plans, assign the different test packages to different releases and to different people. And then what we can do is close that down. And let's say Monday morning after a new release, I'm the tester. I log in and I look at my tasks that I have and my different work lists, and I can execute the different tests in my test package over here. So you can see we have a few over there. I've already executed this one before, but let me select it and I will run it again. And you'll see I just need to click the run button. And because I'm logged into Solution Manager GUI and WinGUI SAP, it'll automatically take me there like it did before. I need to enter my target system, which is SAP ERP. And here, if you were just running your regression tests, you would simply just kick it off. But now what I want to do is set my baseline and activate T-bomb recording. So I can record all my dynamic T-bombs by doing this. So all I'm going to do now is click the run button. And Solution Manager should take over, as well as Tosca. And I don't need to do anything, but what we're going to watch now is Tosca will launch again, because in this case I had it closed. It'll launch, log in, execute these tests for me, and at the end what we're going to see is, if we're quick enough, we'll jump back to Solution Manager, and at the bottom we'll see those T-bombs being recorded and saved into Solution Manager from that side. So we'll give that a second to get going. There we go. That's from Tosca side. It's already started jumping back and forth, and we should see SAP Win GUI kick off next from that side. Okay, so there's SAP taking over, running my create standard order. And that's done. Saved, and now we should jump back to Solution Manager. So the control is actually in Tosca now, but while it's finishing up there, I'm going to manually just jump back to Solution Manager, and we can see what it's doing, and there we can see it. So you can see the tracing and the T-bomb being recorded, and all that information is being saved for this particular test configuration that I created. And again, that's mapped to my Tosca test, which we'll see where we synchronize the BPCA results into Tosca. So I have control here. I just need to click OK. I want to put control back to Solution Manager, so I'll say resume remote control there. I can come back here. There's Solution Manager. Everything's finished, but I'm going to come to the website, and you can see that's run. And if I do a refresh, you can see my time here. Might be a little different to the server time, but I will do a refresh just to see if that changes. And there we go. It has changed to 1534, and that's obviously our server hosted in Vienna. So you can see that's ran, it's recorded the actual T-bombs, and we can check that by coming back into solution documentation, going back to the sales order process and having a look at the actual item there within the create sales order process. So we'll let that load. Don't need my tester's plan there anymore, so I'll close that down. And there we can see, let's do a quick refresh and make sure I've got the right one. Switch back to the actual plan. Put focus on the create sales order process here that we've created. And now if I jump back there, scroll down to the bottom, these are all my configs linked to it. But now if I click on the actual T-bomb type over here, what we should see there, it was created at this point, and it might still be doing some refreshing over here. So we'll actually click into it. And there we go. So it's actually created a new T-bomb in this case, and you can see there's 1735, which was the same one from the work items that I ran from the tester's point of view. So that's already been recorded. And now how this will be used later, if I click OK there, let's close all that down because we are finished in here. What we're going to see now is if I close that, now we're going to leverage the final piece, which is the business process change analyzer. So if I scroll down, I've got one existing one that I'm going to use for today's example. So you can see here, this was done a little while ago by a different user, but basically after a release, we import the BPCA results were created by Solution Manager, and this is what we're going to import directly into Tosca that'll map to our Tosca tests. So after each release that runs, we'll be able to map the different changes based on the T-bombs that were affected, and we're going to see how that information gets pulled across and how that will help us. So I'll open up Tosca again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change from this project view, and I'm just going to focus on this import BPCA results folder. So I've opened that up here where I've just formatted it, but easier to read. We can see all my different requirements over here that we've set up in advanced. We've created automated tests, which we can do by recording them that we've already seen. We've mapped them to different test configurations. The T-bombs have been generated as well when we executed the tests. And now all we need to do is after a release, we do a right click over here on my project. We go back to this SAP Solution Manager integration, and we tell Tosca to import the latest BPCA results. And then this will map to the different results that we saw within Solution Manager. So you can see all the different BPCA runs. There's 3 different ones over there. I'm going to use this one here, this Zimmy one over here. So if I select that, and if I just jump back there, you can see there's the ones we were talking about there, the 4 different results that we have, but I'm going to use that one for today's example. So I select that, I go OK, and what you'll see now is it creates a new folder based on that run. And if I click on that, what you'll see is it's actually showing me, based on the different T-bombs that we mapped and the new release that came out, these are the different tests that we should be executing. So we've got the exact test. We don't have to run a full regression on everything. We have our focus. We know what's been impacted by that change, and we can just execute these tests, and we have immediate feedback of what the actual release has and if everything's broken and what state we're in from that side. But what we also have is I can do a right click on any of these tests and ask Tosca to tell me which requirement is it linked to. So I can jump to the linked requirement, and it'll do a little search. Double click on that. And now what we're doing is we're actually seeing the tests and which requirements they're actually linked to. So we have the BPCA results, but if I scroll up to the top, what this view is giving me is also what tests are mapped to what business risk. So we also have the business risk coverage from that report, from a reporting side within Tosca. And that's the end of that end-to-end flow from our integration with Solution Manager and the different points along the way. Thanks for watching.